Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome you here to this regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Directors of Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District. As is customary in these meetings, we will start this meeting with a pledge to our flag. I've asked Director Clark if he will lead us. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Director Clark.
You're welcome, Mr. Chairman.
This evening, this open session is videotaped for cablecast on Metro 14 to be replayed on Sunday, September 26, 2015 at 2 p.m. and Sunday, September 27, 2015 at 12 p.m. on Channel 14. Also webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. This open session meeting is also available for viewing on the district's website at www.metrofire.ca.gov. Again, as is customary, we start this meeting also with an opportunity for the public to discuss matters of public interest on items on or not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have speaker cards this evening?
Yes, there's one speaker, Mr. Roger Mitchell.
Mr. Roger Mitchell, if you please approach the dais.
Director Gould, board members, Chief Wells, members of Sacramento Fire. My name is Roger Mitchell, lifetime member of the community of Metro Fire. My last opportunity to advertise our fundraising dinner for the restoration of Rio Linda's second fire engine. So that will be on October the 3rd, 6 p.m. at the Rio Linda Elver Recreational Park District's main office at 810 Oak Lane in Rio Linda. So, and also in speaking to Board Member Gould before the meeting, he had mentioned that we were going to host your meeting in December, as well as a dinner for the board after that meeting in the old station at Rio Linda. And I had mentioned to Director Gould, we're lucky in our community that we have two fire stations, a brand spanking new one, as well as the old one that we're working in. So I had mentioned maybe the board would like to show off the new station to the public and have your meeting there. The old station is just 5 minutes away, and we would host your dinner after that meeting in the old station amongst the restoration project. And as long as I'm not misspeaking, Director, I think we agreed to do it in that manner. So I'll let you certainly take over from there. Yeah. So if we have any questions from the board on the dinner or the restoration, be happy to answer them. If not.
Roger, I also understand that the dinner is an invitation for our significant others as well.
Yes, sir, that's exactly correct.
And in some cases, that may be better, you know, for all of us to have significant others versus these guys.
I would leave that discretion up to you, Director.
Okay.
But certainly that invitation not only goes out to the entire staff when they come to the board meetings, but also for their significant others also. We will try to come up with someone through Melissa or the chief or yourself, sir, somewhat of a count, so we don't run short. That's imperative.
Sure.
So, okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
In one case, any other would be better, significant or not.
All right. All right, appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. We'll now entertain a motion for consent.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the consent calendar.
I have a first and a second on the consent. Any questions or comments relative to the items that appear in consent? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Director Orzali,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Scheidegger,
I'm going to abstain. I was not here.
Wood,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Barnes,
Aye.
and Gould.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Moving on now to action items. We'll begin with action item number 1, retroactive pay scale equity adjustment. Deputy Chief Holbrook.
President Gould, members of the board, my name is Christopher Holbrook, Deputy Chief of Administration. Before you tonight I have a staff report requesting authorization to move forward with a pay scale equity adjustment in retroactive form for one of our safety technicians. As you will remember, in February of 2015, this board passed a pay scale equity adjustment for that position. However, that staff report did not reference the retroactivity or the retroactive agreement that was negotiated between 522 and the district. With that, what we're looking at is about $365.50 per month equity adjustment retroactively for a grand total of $15,350.79. With that, I will entertain any questions that the board has.
Questions from directors for Chief Holbrook relative to this action item?
Please.
Only one, and this is actually directed to the chief. Given, Chief, the other items that we have a concern about, that you're going to talk about this evening, is that issue going to affect this?
Sorry, none whatsoever.
Okay.
Totally separate, and it's actually something that needed to be rectified a while ago, and making it right now.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Go ahead, Director Keller.
Chief, if you could tell me, this is going to one individual, correct?
That is correct.
And are the tax implications greater on a large sum of money like that than if it had been taken out of their $365 or whatever it was per week? How do we make that equitable? Well, maybe it's not important. Okay.
No, it certainly, I actually was looking to Amanda to come up and address that. I don't have that many fingers, so I don't know how to count that.
I get you. Thank you.
I don't know that I have an answer to that specific question. I think certainly we'll attempt to make it as equitable as we can. I think the understanding was that it always would be retroactive due to the nature of when the change was put in place. So we're simply addressing that retroactivity now later than we otherwise would have if it had been processed, at the time of the original approval of the adjustment.
Thank you.
Good questions. Any other questions relative to this action item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Yeah, I'm going to need a motion before you do that, though.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion. that we
Alzheimer's.
approve this.
There's the first. There's the second. Now let's do that.
Director Razali,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Scheidegger,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Barnes,
Aye.
and Gould.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. And as a matter of public disclosure, I just want to let everyone know that item number 4 on tonight's action items has been pulled from discussion for this evening. We'll now move on to action item number 2. Mr. Andrews.
Good evening, President Gould, members of the board. Chief, I appreciate you guys having me here this evening. I'm here to make a request to the board to authorize the authority for the district to enter into a purchase agreement with Motorola for new public safety communications radios. In summary, Sacramento County, SRCS, Sacramento Regional Radio Communications Systems, is currently in a large radio system upgrade implementing a new P25 digital standards-based radio system. As part of that upgrade, Metro Fire must replace 305 radios, and we must either upgrade or replace an additional 300. Recently, the Sacramento Sheriff's Department negotiated a large radio purchase for over 3,000 radios, 3,352 to be exact. Due to the large scale of their purchase, they were able to negotiate a very favorable purchase agreement. That purchase agreement includes a 40% discount off Motorola radios, which based on our quantities equates to $416,000 in savings. We get one free software upgrade for every radio purchased, which comes in at a value of about $427,000 to the district. They were also able to negotiate 1 year of additional free extended warranty, as well as we were able to get an extremely low finance rate of 1.568% on this purchase, utilizing a lease. We'd like to thank our friends at the Sheriff's Department for making a great deal with Motorola that we were able to piggyback on. We do have to take advantage of this immediately, however. The terms, Motorola signed the agreement with, the Sheriff signed the agreement with Motorola on Tuesday with the Board of Supervisors approval. So our timeline is pretty much now to take advantage of the savings. Utilizing the free software upgrades, we're able to extend the useful life of 300 radios, the ones that I mentioned that we either need to replace or upgrade. Utilizing those free upgrades, we're able to defer replacement of radios, saving the district $1.6 million. So in essence, approving this purchase this evening, a total cost of about $1.3 million, we ultimately saved the district over $2.5 million. It's a great opportunity for the district to move forward with digitally compliant radios with the P25 standard and save a great deal of money in the process. Additionally, the first payment to Motorola is not due until October 1st of 2016 if we do enter into the lease agreement with them. And that first lease payment it'll only be $270,000, and Amanda can give us more financial details, and I think it's in your packet, but it's like I said, it's a pretty good deal right now for us. So based on that, I would ask for your support and approval of this request so we could enter into that agreement with Motorola. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Okay, thank you very much. Directors, questions related to this particular action item? Director Scheidegger.
Thank you, Mr. President. Scott, thank you for your presentation. You talked about 1 year additional warranty. I was a little, I guess, confused when I read it. On page 20, it talks about repairs, everything's up to us. On page 19 of the package, it says that there are no warranties. Am I confused, or what am I missing here? Tell me what the warranty is with the product.
So the warranty with the product is we have 1 year included with the radio purchase. That's a standard warranty through Motorola.
1 year standard.
1 year standard.
Okay.
The warranty involves us basically mailing it back to the factory. They repair it and they ship it back to us. What this warranty is including is an additional year to that, so we have 2 full years of warranty. Again, that was something that the sheriff ultimately negotiated based on the fact that they're purchasing over 3,000 radios, and implementing 3,000 radios takes some time, so they know they're going to warehouse them for a while. So Motorola basically offered up an additional year of warranty, understanding that constraint. And then they extended that to us as well.
Thanks for the clarification.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, if it would please the group, I would move approval of staff's recommendation.
Okay, I have a first on item 2. I need a second.
Second.
And I have a second on this item. Any other questions relative to this? Mr. Andrews, I'm assuming that the current radio system that we have is in a lease agreement as well?
So the current radios let me clarify the question. So the current radios that we own, or the current radio?
Well, the radios that we currently are using, which are not compliant,
Right.
are they in a lease agreement or do we own them?
We own those outright.
So when we move to this new P25 compliant radio, what are going to happen to the 300 plus radios which we have now?
So there's a few options to that point. So what we're looking at doing with those is, based on the potential of the limited useful life, we can ultimately donate some of those to smaller agencies as kind of a fill-in for what they may need today. And there's also an option for us to maintain a small backup cache of radios to support district operations in the meantime.
And I'm assuming all the infrastructure that we have in place with new servers at the comm center are all P25 compliant as well?
That's correct. Everything that's being implemented today forward, everything is P25 and has been for some time. The radios we're looking to replace are approximately 10 years old. So, and they're at the end of their useful life.
And do we have anyone that has purchased these radios in the past couple of years and have any track record with this particular brand and compliance with P25 and repair histories? Is this the biggest bang and best bang for our buck? I'm assuming since the sheriff is buying 3,000 of them, that there's got to be some history with this vendor.
There is.
It's a very positive thing.
So Motorola is the vendor, and Motorola is the system provider. They're the ones that manufacture the backbone equipment that's been in service in the region for 20 years. That's the vendor we're going forward with the P25 upgrade. Specific to your point, in 2011, Sac City Fire bought this version of radio. That was the absolute first deployment of those radios in this region. Sac City bought 359 of these units, and they've operated very well for them. So,
Okay.
very good track history with this model of radio.
Yeah, I remember a while ago, we heard that P25 was the monster that shan't be talked about. And so it seems to me like as we go down the road and we get access, that big scary number that sat out there for many moons is now starting to shrink a bit, and some anxiety amongst your operations folks seems to be dropping just a bit as far as the number that was presented. I remember it was a very large number that we were looking at, 6 million or something, Chief?
And I'd like to say, with the help of Captain Tyler Wagner, who's not here tonight, bring that scary monster down to something that we can actually reach prior to the mandate of the federal government on us to be P25 compliant. So with that, I mean, I really do thank them a lot.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that we're going to spend this money tonight and save almost twice that money. I mean, that's just a really good indication of how hard people in our organization are working with partners in the region. And I think it's brilliant that we're doing things like with the sheriffs and figuring these things out, because when you can save the taxpayer $2.5 million, or we can save ourselves that, it opens up opportunities to have that revenue to be placed in other places. No disrespect to the radio, but it doesn't run a call.
Right, no, it
It's
doesn't.
on the call, but it doesn't get there by itself.
right.
So I'm very happy that we're doing these kinds of things, and I just encourage us to keep looking for those kinds of relationships with other public safety, agencies in the region, because we're saving 2.5 million clams.
Right. It's a
That's
lot
a
of money,
lot.
however you look at it, but when we work together, it's better for everybody.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's just brilliant. All right, I have a first and a second. Thank you very much. A first and a second on this item. Any other questions or comments? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Director Orzali?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Scheidegger?
Aye.
Wood?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Barnes?
Aye.
And Gould.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Davis, you're next. Item number 3. Looks like Mr. Davis is going to be here a while. May want to pull up a chair. Item number 3, multiple awards schedule extension, architecture and engineering services.
Director is Larry Davis, Chief Development Officer, and this item is a request to extend our existing multiple award schedule that we have for architectural and engineering services. The original 5-year agreement is about to lapse, and we need to extend it. We have the option for 2 one-year extensions, and anticipating the need for architectural services in the near future, we would like to extend that multiple award schedule.
Questions relative to action item number 3 on the extension of the service? Gentlemen, go ahead. Director Orzali.
Larry, is there a potential for us to need more than the 2 years?
That's at your discretion. When it originally was set out, it was set with, 5 years with 2 one-year extensions. I'm not sure if we can go back and revisit that, but
It was just a question about should the need exist? And given the vagaries of budget, who knows? But would that mean then a new contract, or could this contract be amended further? That was, and
I'd have to defer to legal counsel on that.
Yeah, what, Director Orzali, what you're looking at is you're not entering into a contract. The district back in 2010 adopted a resolution whereby an RFP went out for architectural and engineering services. 3 businesses were selected and put onto a list. You were not contractually obligated to use that list. It was just a nice reference to have in the event those services came up. In 2011, a second resolution was adopted by this board, Resolution 2011-01, which added 3 architectural and engineering firms and reinstituted and established a 5-year lifespan for that list, with the option of 2 one-year extensions. So your options at this point are only to follow what that resolution requires you to do, which is 2 one-year extensions. If there's a need to go longer for that list, you'd have to go back to the drawing board and establish a new list, vote on a new resolution with a new term and potentially new businesses or persons on the list.
thank you, John. That's what I was questioning. Great, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, I need a first and a second.
Mr. Chairman, so moved, please.
Okay, I have a first on item number 3, and I got a triplet. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Director Orzali?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Scheidegger?
Aye.
Wood?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Barnes?
Aye.
And Gould.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to action item number 5. Memorandum of Understanding, Consumnes Fire Department, 2014 State Homeland Security Grant Program Award, rigid inflatable boats.
Director is again Larry Davis. This is the completion and the final kind of wrapping up of the 5-boat grant that we have been doing over a couple of years now. And this is the final award to those vessels to those agencies.
Sounds like free money. Anybody want to oppose that? Questions or comments relative to this action item?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the agenda item to accept the MOU.
Okay, we have a first on the MOU acceptance of these two.
Second.
Triplet on that deal. Any questions relative to action item number 5? Madam Clerk?
Director Rosali,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Scheidegger,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Barnes.
Aye.
And Gould.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Let's now move on to action item number 6, fiscal year 14 AFG Fire Prevention and Safety Grant Award.
Directors, this is a new award. It's from the Assistance to Firefighter Grant Program. This is the Fire Prevention and Safety Grant application component of that. Sort of some background on the AFG. You know, the equipment and vehicle grants all go first. That's why this is like over a year from our application. We applied back in April of 2014. As they go through the whole process, the funds, there's a fund remaining at the end of the process go into the Fire Prevention and Safety Grant Program. We applied for those funds also, and we were awarded the $444,873 for a residential care facility inspection program, and we're looking for authority to accept those funds.
Okay, again, any questions or comments relative to action item number 6 on the federal government giving us money? I need a first. Oh, you have a question? Wow, okay, good.
Larry, one thing's come up on this, these positions that are created through this grant, these are positions that will ultimately become self-sustaining through their activities, or will there be additional grant funding to keep these positions going?
The initial grant is just for the 1-year period, and then they will need to become self-sustaining to go beyond that. And the chief-
Well, and we don't enter into these types of grants without an end game. And we did a detailed analysis through the community risk reduction to understand what the body of work they'd be doing and what the body of work remains past the life of the grant. It's our very strong understanding in that, in combination with labor, that the amount of work that the inspectors could do after this grant performance period would be self-funding essentially, so that it wouldn't be a negative impact to the district. And then, of course, the longer term, and we could attrit these folks out as that time came for retirements and already have trained people in place. But we don't anticipate an impact to the general fund above and beyond what the revenue and cost recovery could be by the work generated. And again, these are inspectors that are going to go out into the community. We're talking about large daycare centers. We're talking about residential care facilities that we're not currently in today. And then those inspectors could be further trained to do other duties that is, clearly there's a gap in what we're even able to accomplish in the community risk reduction with all the amount of work that exists there. So we're confident that on the back half of this, when the grant expires, that we'll be able to absorb that.
Thank you.
Any other questions relative to action item number 6?
Mr. Chairman, I would move approval of the resolution accepting the fiscal year 2014 AFG Fire Prevention and Safety Grant.
All right, I have a first and a second on this item. Any questions? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Director Rosali,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Scheidegger,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Barnes.
Aye.
And Gould.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Okay, we'll continue to move on this evening. As far as the president's report, I just want to thank Mr. Mitchell for coming up and working with us in regards to our December meeting. So, gentlemen at the dais, I'd just like to remind you that that night we will begin our meeting in the firehouse, Station 111, at which time, once we adjourn that meeting, we'll then move over to the restoration project and have dinner there. So please get that on your calendar so we can, that will be the only meeting in December. And typically it's the meeting where we also celebrate the holidays. So we'll need to make sure, and I'll be getting with Mr. Mitchell and getting a head count relative to who's going to be there from both this dais as well as staff so that we can make sure that there's ample food there for everyone. So with that, that ends my report. Chief, we'll move to you on Fire Chief's report.
Well, good evening, directors. You know what, and I'm going to take the advantage tonight of the chief's report to start off on an issue that is very recent. The district has recently become aware that we are going to see some remarkable changes in our ability to receive the intergovernment transfer funds that we've experienced this last year. These changes are based on changes in calculation and distribution of these intergovernment transfer funds. Basically, the reduction in revenues received this year as compared to last year is going to potentially minimize some of our service delivery mechanisms that we're going to be able to achieve. And we're going to do and take a look at how this impacts the district in the way that negatively impacts the district in the least amount possible. And so, and making sure that we can serve the district throughout as best we can. But to understand remember the Intergovernment Transfer Program is a federal program, provides government entities such as Metro Fire a mechanism to receive federal matching funds for the treatment of Medi-Cal managed care beneficiaries. Those are HMOs. And the IGT is one of the revenue streams that this last budget year helped replace a portion of our property taxes that we lost during this recession. And at that time, a year ago, helped prevent us from further service reduction levels, if you remember in last year's budget. So the major changes that we're seeing this year that are causing this impact is there's a methodology that has changed that is used to calculate what the IGT number is that we enjoyed this year. If you remember in our budget, it was $6.6 million. And it's going to change in a negative outcome this year based on the new calculation. And we're expecting that change to be in combination. Well, let me give you the second piece of this. They're also changing Metro Fire to instead of a calendar year, we're being changed to a fiscal year to match the state budget, which isn't insurmountable because that's just a transfer of budget years. But that too is showing an impact in the total overall budget reduction that we're going to see in the intergovernment transfer. So it's unclear exactly what this amount of money is going to be, but we're expecting it, and this is a big number, to be somewhere between $3 and $5 million to our operational budget this year. It was something that literally we just became aware of, and as I said before, other local regional departments and statewide entities up and down the state of California are seeing this exact same change. So how we're going to address this issue is still really under consideration by the senior team. We have not and will not make a snap judgment as to how this is going to happen. We're going to be proactive and not reactive to this. And as further analysis comes available, we're going to make the appropriate budgetary item changes so that we can manage the resources as best serves the community. But some of those larger issues that we're talking about is we are having for consideration pretty much anything that was in the final budget this time is subject to scrutiny, but one of those would be reconsideration of maintaining the Safer Truck Company that was awarded a year ago or 2 years ago, and it expired in May. It was our understanding and want that we wanted to keep that going through in this year's preliminary or final budget. That's something that we're going to be heavily considering. We are going to also be considering rotating a brownout of one engine company. And I want to talk about this just for a second. In the final budget, we discussed opening Engine 68. We were excited about that. That community out in the Anatolia area is 27% more call volume than it was in 2011 when it was closed. And it receives response times anywhere between 7 and 9 minutes into that community, and that's not acceptable. When we went and looked at the analysis to reopen that engine company, we saw this large blind spot out there that was really something that that community has grown, and there's continued to be development out there. So our consideration is still to open Engine 68 as planned, but to be part of a larger distributed brownout throughout the district, because I think that the command team feels that the distribution of that brownout needs to be readily felt across the district and not just one specific community that has the call volume and the need currently. So that's something to be discussed as a senior team. We're also, with that, with brownouts, we would be looking at a reduction in the sizes of our fire academy for the spring to offset those positions. We also, in this year's final budget, we had 3 new positions that we had proposed. The deputy fire marshal, the training captain, and an EMS captain. Those are in consideration to either postpone or to withdraw for this budgetary year, depending on what the analysis shows on this impact. There's also some technology upgrades. That was a station alerting project that we were looking to take on this year that we would be moving to next year, understanding that kicking the can down the road on this isn't going to help. It's just going to postpone a problem. And also, the burn tower, and that's one of the reasons it was pulled off tonight's agenda. We're not in a position right now that we can consider moving forward on that. Further analysis needs to take place. Doesn't mean that we're not still very interested in doing that, but clearly we've got a budgetary impact of anywhere from $3 to $5 million that we're going to need to address. So, and we're going to do that thoughtfully and make sure that at the end of this budgetary cycle, we've provided the best safety and opportunity for the public to be protected by our revenues that we have. And so I'm sure there will be some questions. I'd entertain those at this point, and then I will continue with the rest of my report.
Okay. All right, Chief. Gentlemen, you've heard. Go ahead, Director Barnes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First and foremost, I want to thank you for coming back and addressing the board. Speaks to your leadership. I understand you were out of town when you discovered this news and flew back. So again, it speaks to your leadership. I just want clarification. I know when we agreed to go forward with this, it sounds like the government said, give us your money, we'll hold it, we'll build it, and we'll give you a certain amount back. Now they're reducing what they're giving back to us initially. So essentially, they're changing the rules in the middle of the game.
Yeah, and I would tell you this, that we were very forward-leaning and in a tough economic time, and went out and got something that was absolutely approved, the state of California, and the regulations on that are relatively varied, I guess, and the state of California has specifically addressing how they do that consistently, and nothing that Metro Fire has done in this has been anything but good budgetary sense last year moving forward in this. This year, based on the state redefining, as you stated, the rules of the participation of the way they distribute the funds, we are still looking forward to being part of this IGT moving forward. And there's some other opportunities to talk about. They're looking at Kaiser, as an example, was not part of the group last year. That is being discussed. Doesn't mean that we're going to do that or not. But so the exact number, that's why I'm not trying to hold us to a number because we're not sure what the number is. And there could be some variables that change. But it's going to be definitely less than last year considerably. And then, we've always been in a brand new program in an IGT. We've always been speculative of the consistency and sustainability of that. But literally last year, I think we should look at from last year what we did achieve, and we're able to keep service provided at a high level, higher than we would have based on that program. And this year, we're going to have to go through with the process that's provided for us, and be good stewards of the money that we get from that. So.
All right. Other questions for Chief Wells relative to this? Go ahead, Director.
Less a question, Dan. I too want to compliment you on the leadership for coming back for this. This is a big deal. And it also speaks to the long-term fiscal management that Metro Fire has undergone. This kind of thing, had we not been positioned to be able to absorb this, could be devastating. It's already going to have significant impact in the community, and your plan to mitigate the response times is laudable. It's what we're here for. So I appreciate that. I'm sorry this is happening. I remember when we went into the deal that there was questions about how viable it was, and now we have some feedback about it. So thank you.
Thank you, Director. Other questions for the chief relative to this particular topic that he's brought up during his report? Chief, I just have one. Can you, again, for the public, describe in basic terms what this particular process is all about?
Well, the IGT is basically a Medicare, Medi-Cal. There's a certain amounts of revenue that are available, and I'm sure that if I miss something here, that CFO Amanda Thomas can help me out. But in basic terms, it's a cost recovery mechanism for funds of a federal program, Medicare, Medicaid, that we go out on calls, we transport people, and we get a certain reimbursed cost. And that isn't necessarily what it costs us to provide the service. And so there's a difference, and there's a subsidy that goes out. And then last year, as an example, it's a matching funds, and it went out from the state to the federal government, back to the state and the HMOs. The HMOs derived a small percentage, I think 2% or something along that way, coming back. State of California gets 20%. So when their reduction of our opportunity in this program actually impacts the ability of the state as well. So they are streamlining their process to be consistent across the board, which has impacted us because of the methodology of the calculation that was used originally. It was very much above board, done the way it was supposed to. They've just redefined how they're going to do that in the future. So, it's a cost recovery program based on a federal program, and because as we go out and participate and transport and help the community, I mean, clearly the tax dollars are for fire suppression, to mitigate fires. And so the rest of it, on the EMS side of it, needs to be something that is sustainable, and that's why we enter into these programs.
Do we have any idea of how many, we run approximately 90,000 responses a year or somewhere in that neighborhood. Do we have any idea of the percentage of patients that we transport in this community that IGT applies to? I know it's a Medicare, or is it a Meta?
Well, it's an HMO component.
It's the HMO.
It's for the managed healthcare programs.
Okay.
Molina, Blue Cross Blue Shield, I believe.
But do we have any idea of how many patients we're transporting on an annual basis where this IGT component applies? Because I'm sure we're transporting thousands of patients where the IGT would not apply because it's a federal HMO process.
And those would be in the GEMT program, not to be confused with this one. But Amanda, thank you.
Sure. Just to answer the specific question about how many patients or how many trips, so for our IGT last year, that covered just under 10,000 trips.
Okay. So that's a sizable number of patients that we're transporting to the hospital where this particular reimbursement model applies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that number is going to continue to go up over time, and this process will still continue to be in place, but at a different factor.
And was there ever any kind of an open public meeting where these models or reimbursement rates were discussed? Or is this somewhere done in a cubicle in an unmarked building with no address? I'm trying to get an idea of how we enter into these agreements. A public agency like our own develops an annualized budget based on these assumptions that were given to us by this partner, and then unilaterally, we get a notification that they on their own have decided to change the model without opening it up to, we don't get to open up whether we're going to transport 10,000 people or not. We still got to do that, but I'm just trying to think of the process, because how can this ever be stopped if it's done without input from the beneficiaries of that reimbursement program to say, do you see the impact this will have by changing the model unilaterally without our input? It seems like, we're just getting wagged by, the tail pretty hard.
Well, and literally, this is fresh in the last day or two, the awareness level at this point. There will be longer term discussions, but IGTs have been around, I believe, for 20 or more years. They're widely used. This isn't a new program, but the fire service being involved in a rate range hospital IGT is different and relatively new. And so I don't think there's anything nefarious going on in terms of, back room. This is a legitimate, straight-up deal that they're just changing the methodology to make it consistent across the board for all parties, I believe. And so, and it's a
just
new
seems-
program.
Yeah, it just seems
for
nice
us.
if they were to make some of these changes, they would implement it with a 6-month, process where it's, hey, we're going to change the model in 6 months so you all that are building budgets can know that in the next budget cycle, you're going to see a new model being used. But here we are a month into our budget, and now the model's changed, and we have to make all of these fundamental changes to our system versus saying, we're going to change the model. You've got 18 months to implement it in your budget cycles. It seems like as we go down this road, Chief, I'm sure there's going to be conversations, because we can't be the only public agency that uses this model and is now going to be significantly impacted after a month of approving a new budget. It seems to me like they would be sensitive to, let's negotiate. If you're going to make a model change or a ratio change or factor change, set it up to where there's a year of notification so that when we talk about prelim budgets, we know what the next year's monies are going to be. It seems like it's significantly penalizing us for going out and providing an awesome service to at least 10,000 people in our community, and then duplicate that across the state. That's a lot of citizens of California that are receiving a pretty good service, and we're kind of almost being penalized for doing some of that. And so I hope in our further conversations, we kind of let them know, hey, we just can't get a letter and one day change our budgets with, and just start, making big changes to our operations, so.
Yeah, and the awareness of the difference in the fiscal year piece was known a while back. It wasn't necessarily an impact because of so if it's that 6-month period, then
Right.
you would get, it's a balancing act between fiscal years, and why you have a good, and I would like to just say in my closing comments here on this issue, this is the reason why having a reserve fund of at least a balance that you can, absorb some fluctuation and different outcomes and not have more significant problems.
Yeah.
So, I think that we have positioned ourselves to be able to sustain this. We're going to be very proactive, not reactive to it, and get through it. And those questions have been asked in the last 16 to 24 hours, a lot of conversations about having that conversation about the timeline and having further discussions about implementation periods, et cetera, on the change of calculation.
Other questions on this item? Okay, thank you, Chief.
Okay, moving on. Get to the happier part of the report, if that's possible. I would like to say, actually, in all sincerity, we had a tremendous outpouring of Metro Fire support at the 9/11 events a couple weeks ago. Had the stair climb. A lot of people with sore calves after that climb, I can assure you, from myself and Chief Taylor's perspective. But I can tell you, I've been in the fire department for 29 years and some change, and it's a very powerful event. And I would just tell you that I was very, very honored to be able to be part of that. And I'd also like to thank Deputy Chiefs Holbrook and Taylor. They attended the International Association of Fallen Firefighters Memorial in Colorado Springs. Again, a great opportunity to honor those in our profession that have fallen. I had a good meeting with Assemblywoman Beth Gaines with Rusty Dupre the other day on the 17th. Just a good meet and greet about some politics that impacts us locally. I was a speaker at the Rancho Cordova Community Council on the 18th. Had a great discussion there and some good questions back and forth about some of the issues between Metro Fire and one of our cities, which we've had a great rapport with over the years, and we want to be continued good partners with them. As we speak, Assistant Chief Bridge Lozano and Chief Johnson are down at the Cal Chiefs Conference. I came back a little bit early. I can tell you the Cal Chiefs Conference is a great opportunity for the fire chiefs of California to sit down and talk about relevant issues that are impacting, including IGT and some others across the state. We had Undersecretary Michael Wilkening and his assistant Marco Mijic from the Health and Human Services right along with our EMS division. They went out and saw every aspect of the way we deliver service from the single role to the fire-based, medics, engine-based, and also toured the comm center. I appreciate our crew's support in making that a great event for the Undersecretary to be able to see what we do. We have a town hall event coming up on November 3rd at 10 o'clock at Station 21. We're looking forward to, on the 10th of October, the Rio Linda Alberta Rec and Park District benefit dinner for the restoration of fire truck number 2, and I will be there with other members of staff. It's $20. It starts at 6 p.m., and it'll be at the Rio Linda Rec and Park District Community Center at 810 Oak Lane in Rio Linda. We are having a promotion ceremony, which is always exciting for us, next week on the 29th of September at 5:30 p.m. here at headquarters. There will be 14 recent promotees honored. Next weekend, the 3rd and the 4th, is the Capitol Air Show. 2 military teams and a host of other great airframes out there celebrating aviation, Thunderbirds, and I believe the Canadian Snowbirds will be there. They do a great job, and I would say that members of our own staff, Chief Griggs and others, do a phenomenal job getting Metro Fire out there to help with the safety and that event. Dean Baker's Crab Feed at John Vianney's Parish at 5 p.m. will be on the 21st of November. Dean Baker was a fantastic human being, and I hope everybody can be there for that for a fundraiser. Promotions, we had 2 single-role paramedics that were promoted from EMTs. That was Daniel Weld and Richard Rodriguez, and we're excited for that. We have a recruitment out for firefighter-paramedic. It's an internal-only application. On the 2nd of October at 4 p.m. is the final filing date, and that is for the 16-1 Firefighter Academy. We have a career development Fire Academy drill instructors. Final filing date is the 9th of October at 4 p.m. from the ranks of captain, engineer, and firefighter. And Michelle always does a better job promoting the PIO because she's out there into the community. She's not here tonight, but I would tell you that they taught through Chief Holbrook and the administrative staff, 30 administrative personnel, sidewalk CPR, the IT, finance, and HR divisions in this building last week on the 16th. We're also excited about the pink fire engine for cancer awareness, and that's actually going to be both October and November. November is a different movement called Movember, and there'll be more coming about that. So that Cancer Awareness Engine Ceremony will be on the 30th of September. There'll be a press conference at Station 21 at 11 a.m. And that engine, if you remember from last year, will rotate. It'll be at Engine 21 from the 30th through the middle of October. Then it'll go to 61 from the 14th of October to the 25th of October. It'll go to 53 from the 25th of October to November 4th. It'll be at 109 from the 4th of November to the 19th of November, and finishing up at Engine 24 on the 19th of November through the end of November. And so that's a 2-month cancer awareness campaign, more to follow on that. And it'll actually be here at the board meeting on the 22nd of October. So you get an opportunity to see it outside. Fire Prevention Week, using last year's winner's submission, there's 30 vehicle magnets will be made available and placed on apparatus in Battalion 7, where the winner lives and attends school for the month of October. Michelle Idem and the Community Services staff will work with the family of the winner and the winner's school to appropriately memorialize those. We're excited about that. And that concludes my report this evening, unless you have any further questions.
Okay, questions for the chief on his report on the items not already discussed? Okay, thank you very much, Chief. Chief Taylor, operations report.
Good evening, Board of Directors, Chief Wells, Darren Taylor, Deputy Chief of Operations. I'm here tonight to give you your board meeting operations report. Metro Fire, since our last board meeting on September 10th, has ran 3,534 calls with 12 working structure fires and 31 vegetation fires. In our EMS world, we ran 3,013 calls with transports of 2,164 with a transport rate of 71.8. Our partners in the EMS business AMR ran 44 dispatches and had 25 transports with a 56% transport rate. And currently at this time, out on the Butte Fire and the Valley Fire, we have a total of 6 personnel. That'd be 4 at the Valley and 2 at the Butte. And as I always say every single week, I'm very, very proud of the men and women every day of what they do out there, why we get to stay at home and rest. If you have any questions.
Gentlemen, questions for Chief Taylor relative to the ops report? Thank you, Chief Taylor. I appreciate that. Council Lavra, any reports for us this evening?
No report.
Thank you very much. Local firefighters 522, do we have a representative that? Sir, welcome. Good evening. You'll approach and let us know who you are. I think we know, but the public might not.
Good evening. Battalion Chief Rick Griggs, Metro Fire Battalion 9A shift. I'm here tonight to come in place of Director, 522 Director Barsdale, unable to attend because of a class. I'm going to keep it short. What we'd like to say is thank you very much for an opportunity to enter into negotiations, and that we recognize that you folks have a tough job to do and that your responsibility is to the citizens, and we support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you for being here this evening. I appreciate that. We'll now move on to committee and delegate reports. I have no report for the executive committee. I would imagine over the next couple of weeks there may be a need to gather, so I'll just let my colleagues know. I will keep you up to date on that if, in fact, there's something comes up. We'll move to Com Center JPA, and it looks like Chief Holbrook, you're up.
Mr. Chair, we have not met since I last reported out. Our next meeting is this coming Tuesday, September 29th, 9 a.m. in these chambers.
Thank you very much, and just want to remind you, you set the bar pretty high tonight with the 2.5 million savings. You're going to have in a couple of weeks, you're going to have to come back and double that down, it sounds like. So get on it, right? All right, California Fire and Rescue Training, JPA Director Kelly.
Yes, the JPA met this evening, discussed, had a report on the fiscal health of the JPA, and certainly it is like an anchor. That building is like an anchor around the neck of the JPA. Hopefully we'll have that taken care of before long. At the same time, we approved a 15-16 budget, and certainly seeing the 3 agencies, Cal OES, Metro Fire, and the City of Sacramento work together is an excellent thing. One more example of why the fire service is such a wonderful place.
Thank you, Director Kelly. Director Woods on the finance report.
Yeah, our next meeting will be on October 22nd at 5 p.m. in this room.
Thank you very much. Director Barnes, if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and ask Director Scheidegger if he'll report out. He got a little testy when he saw your name, and he's the chair.
No
Director
objection.
Scheidegger.
Thank you very much for filling in, Director Barnes. The next meeting is set, I see, for October 8th at 5 o'clock, and that'll precede the special meeting that'll occur that evening at 6. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Gentlemen, board members, questions and comments? Let's just remind ourselves that we've got a lot of people that are missing their families and have been here for a long time. Director Barnes.
No comments tonight, thank you.
Excellent job. Appreciate it. Very good. Director Kelly.
Relative to the less than wonderful news that the chief disclosed tonight, again, I believe that it is the hard work of everybody in this room and everybody that wears a Metro patch on their sleeve. You know, I oftentimes refer to you folks as the high-performing team, otherwise known as Metro Fire, and that is what will get us through this, and I look forward to seeing us thrive in the future. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Kelly. Director Orzali.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to welcome somebody from the community who is joining us this evening. Devin, would you stand up for just a moment, please? Ladies and gentlemen, this is Devin Thomas. He is the son of now retired Fire Captain Bruce Thomas. And Devin has joined us this evening because he's doing a research project for his school in public governance. And so thank you for being here, and I hope this has been a useful experience for you. Next, I'd like to, again, commend Metro Fire's team, particularly the fiscal team, in the light of the recent information we received. This does seem like an inordinately short period of time to try and respond. But as the chief mentioned, having a reserve fund is absolutely system critical. And without that, this is the kind of thing that could be catastrophic for the community. So again, I applaud them for all of the efforts that they have done. And while I'm applauding folks, Melissa, we recently had a request from a community member about an issue that had gone on. And so I used the newly developed Director's Information Request process in a Level 2 request for information about this, and the system worked beautifully. I got exactly the information I needed in an excellent time frame. I was able to refer that to the gentleman and let him decide whether or not what we needed to do next. I just want to know, I want you to know how much I appreciated your efforts in bringing that together and making that happen for the community. And one last thing, Melissa, if I understand correctly, there were actually 2 information requests that I submitted. Was that right? There was a second one that was a Level 3.
Well, I think I'm still working on that one.
Oh, you're still working on that one. Okay, so did you
I'm
want
going to throw it back in your court, though, so I might need a little more information.
I see. All right. Well, thank you. As I understand it, it involved Director Scheidegger. I'm unclear on the issues. So with that, thank you very much.
Isn't he out of order?
I don't know. I'm done almost. Director Clark.
Mr. Chairman, I have no questions or comments at this
Okay,
time.
thank you very much. Director Wood?
Just want to say, Chief, thanks for your coming back, your candor on these issues, and you and your staff's diligence in addressing this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Scheidegger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to comment briefly. I want the community to recognize the efforts of this department in the area of grants once again. I have a little prior professional experience in residential care facilities. That is an area that really needs the sort of protection that our program will lend. The community is enriched by this program, and it's done, once again, by our hard work and Mr. Davis and your people in terms of soliciting and securing this grant. Good work, and I hope the community appreciates it. I'm sure they should. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Just like to remind our colleagues that this coming meeting is scheduled for December 8th, or October 8th, which is a special board meeting with the intent of interviewing for candidates for Division 1. That will begin at 6 o'clock in the evening, and it is our goal to move through all those interviews and eventually end that evening with a selection of a candidate to fill the vacant position in Division 1. So that, again, is a special board meeting of which it is critical that we have a quorum in order to be able to move through this process, slated for October 8th at 6 p.m. in these chambers. There is a policy meeting set up for that same evening at 5 o'clock, which we need to ensure we get completed in a timely fashion. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here this evening. I appreciate your attentiveness, and we moved through this in fairly quick order. And so at this point, this meeting stands adjourned.
Phenomenal leadership, Grant.
Guys, thank you very much for helping out tonight.